This podcast is brought to you by our partners at 8 Star Energy.
8 Star Energy, a clean energy company leading the future of portable and renewable energy.
To find out more, follow them on Facebook at 8 Star Energy.
I want attacking, purposeful football all the time. Now we're going to have backs against the wall and we're going to fight, and we're going to fight hard. You've got to show me all the guts and all the determination you've got in your body. You've got to inspire me.
A marvellous kick. That's as good as you'll ever see. And puts Player back in front.
I don't know about you guys, but if I see one bloke walking out of here, give the pat on the back from people out there for a good effort, I'll spew up.
From inside the centre square. Boys kick the goal. Boys kick the goal. From inside the centre. I can't believe that.
Hey, Pack. Good on you. Look at you. You are listening to a Bulldogs podcast on the week that the men were knocked out of the finals in heartbreaking circumstances for the second year in a row, and yet you're still downloading it. You're a true fan. If I was in your shoes, I wouldn't be listening to this. I'd be throwing it. The Tanty Pants would be on. I'd just be listening to AFLW podcasts or soccer, cricket, whatever your summer sport is. But you hearing this right now, you're a true fan. Welcome to Danny Boyd, podcast about the 8th greatest football club in the league. That's the Football Club. I'm Danny McGinlay. With me is Tom Boyd. Welcome, Tom. Are you good?
Yeah, I think I picked the most challenging games to fully watch through, Danny. Over and over again, I think the games that I actually sit through the entire affair, watch the television, is the games we end up invariably losing. So, mate, I'm all right.
You're not thinking like a fan then, Boydie, because what we do, what us normal people do then is we assume we're a curse. I have a friend of the show, Megan. She will often text me to say, I'm turning off now because whenever she turns off, we win. So you got to remember, it's all about you. The Bulldogs' fate revolves around you.
What happens when there's like 50,000 curses cancelling each other out? Who becomes the ultimate curse?
Bevo. Maybe Bevo could stop watching.
He's the man who does have the destiny of the team. We actually have a former teammate of mine.
Let's get him.
Wonderful man coming in on board. This might be the third time, I think. It's Lin Jong. How are you, mate?
Thanks for having me, fellas. I think it's a second maybe, but it's good to be back. Obviously, a pretty devastating loss over the weekend. So I'll see what I can do if I can have an insight or cheer the fans up at least.
We got you on for our live grand final show last year. That's accurate, isn't it? I mean, I can barely remember it due to all the long necks I was downing, but so that's a third. That's sure it's not recorded, but third time on there. Official friend of the show, Jongy. Where did you watch the match?
I was at home. I was actually had my own final to play on the Sunday, so just at home, dinner and a few waters. So almost turned it off after the first quarter to get to bed, but yes, wasn't to be.
Lynn, what is with all these Sunday finals going on? I was at a grand final yesterday. Shout out Tessa Boyd. She won her VAFA premiership. Yesterday. Was in the best players too, might I add. She catches the ball about as consistently as I used to, about one every three. But what's with all these Sunday finals, John? I thought Saturdays were resigned to being the local footballers' day of pleasure.
I actually don't know, and it's borderline criminal because you know me and I like to go to church on Sundays, mate. So I mean they've got to sort something out. It's not right for local footy. It's a weird setup. Even our league, we do a top 5, and it's bizarre because we play. So, for example, we played against Sam Lloyd in our first week of the final, and then I'm going to play him again this weekend. Somehow.
Who's Lloydie playing for? So this is actually a league that I played juniors in, Jongy. You play for the Montmorency Magpies. Who is Sam Lloyd playing for?
Sam Lloyd's playing for Bundoora.
Those pricks.
And you also
hate
have you have another former Bulldog playing with you, don't you, Jongy? Is Mitch Honeychurch running around with you on the weekends?
He is. I think he fractured his cheekbone maybe 3 or 4 weeks. So he's out for the whole season, unfortunately.
We never discuss Mitch Honeychurch enough on this show. I remember going to Adelaide Oval and seeing him dominate against Port in 2016. Seemed a ripping bloke. Did you guys ever catch on with the nickname Sweet Jesus?
Never heard of that one.
Never heard that one.
You guys are terrible. Come on. That was so great yelling that out when he got the ball.
Well, I think we called him Ferret, actually.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember why, but Mitch and I, Danny, we played football together since we were, I don't know, 10 or 11. And Mitch was one of those early growth spurters who dominated as a centre-half forward at about the age of 12. And then somehow managed to cling on to relevancy as everyone grew around him and became an AFL footballer. So he's a cracking player. Just like the height in these genes, I think, mainly.
He definitely had a good run. So when Jongy, we're all looking for after the Bulldogs men's side's gone out, we're all looking for other sports to grab onto. So Monty play Bundy. Where is that this weekend for those who are listening when this is released on the 6th of September 2022?
It's at Preston City Oval. I think it's where the Northern Bullhounds play. It's
Kramer Street, opposite Preston Market.
Yes. So I keep having a park there, and so I think it's at 2:00 if I guess anyone's not doing anything better on a Sunday. But yeah, the ground's a bit crap at the moment. The middle's all muddy and. But I'm obviously getting used to the subpar grounds these days.
And is this a prelim?
Prelim, yep. Yeah.
And who's in the granny? Who will you take on?
So it's Heidelberg in the granny.
Heidelberg Tigers.
I think so. I actually don't know.
Do you know what's tragic? The only player I remember from Heidelberg title, at least all of these clubs have had players go on to, hit the AFL. The only person I remember playing for Heidelberg Tigers is Blair from Big Brother, who went on to have a Neighbours career and whatnot.
Right. Yeah. I think that might have been before my time, potentially. Joey, what has it been like, the transition back to local footy? I mean, I dipped my toe in the water in 2019 at the suburban level, and it was interesting because I was back at my local club. And then obviously I played in the VAF for a little bit last year and I haven't played this year. But what have you found it like? It's a bit of a shift, I found, sort of the quality of the grounds, quality of the players. It's easier in some ways, much harder in others. What's sort of your been experience?
It's been very interesting. The huge shock. I've been injured a lot this year again, in and out of hammy. What else? Hurt my knee. Did my MCL. Illness. But it was a big change. I think my first game I played, we had to warm up at a school next to some school portables where you're just like sort of watching everywhere you step in case you roll your ankle. But it's been good. Good bunch of blokes. It's actually quite hard. It's really hard. It's a good league, a really good league for local footy. But yeah, I've enjoyed it. I think. Probably wouldn't go as far to say as I'm absolutely loving it. I think that point of footy's far gone, but it's been really good fun. And then sort of, obviously nice playing on a good team that wins and into finals. It's always nice. Playing finals footy at any level is always fun. So it's been good.
Do you get targeted?
Yeah, there's been a few weeks where sort of nothing too sinister or anything like that, but just copping a tag here and there. Got one over the weekend, which was always good fun. But I've forgotten what it's like to play with a tagger on me. So I never know what to do when it happens. I just stop playing essentially.
Yeah. I was talking to Lath about it recently, Jongy. I ran into him at the dog park and he'd just come back from like 9 weeks on the sideline or something with that hammy that he had. And I said, how you going? You back? He goes, I started playing again in the twos on the weekend. ran out at Werribee Oval and had a tagger on me. And he said, I'm not sure this is worth it. And that's like, I feel like that's like the general sentiment. I remember when I went back for the first time and it was like, so there's two blokes playing on me. I'm like, why are you here? Can't you just leave me alone? I want to kick like 3 or 4, have a decent day. Everyone can sort of play even Stevens. You can take a few marks, run off, get a couple of kicks. Everyone's happy. Let's just go home at the end of the day. But it's not the way people play footy, unfortunately.
Jongy, how are you dealing with the commute? Are you still in? You live in the western suburbs. Montmorency is, quite a bit up the northern end of town. How long does it take you to get to a match?
Usually the home game's about 45 to 50 minutes. So it is a bit of a trek, but as I said, it's all for the love of the game, mate. Nothing else.
Jongy's still hardwired to use those same one-liners we were trained to for 10 years.
Yeah. No, that's good because the Montmorency Magpies media manager has been really riding my tail on this.
1 week at a time, mate. 1 week at a time.
So, Boydie, you actually, listeners will be really excited to find out that Tom Boyd not only watched the entire match of the elimination final, but watched it with the sound up.
Yeah, at a pub.
At
3
a pub.
out of 3 criteria.
Which pub were you at, mate? Which pub? Where are the middle part? Are we talking like the Gun Island? Oh, that doesn't even exist anymore.
No.
What pub
none of the ones that you used to go to exist, Daddy. None of them.
All been shut down by the cops.
Yeah, exactly. Now me and one of my groomsmen, Brevin, watched it at the Montague Street Hotel. So we sort of perched up at this, nice high top and watched the game. And yeah, it was interesting, to say the least. We looked. I would say we looked okay in the first quarter, and Freo looked abysmal.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was this sort of disconcerting lack of efficiency post-quarter time that made it very difficult to watch. And yeah, I mean, I feel like we got the absolute maximum out of some of our players. Probably the best story of the day, Danny, is our number one, besides Jongy, number one guest of the show, Toby McLean, coming back for his first game in the ones in the final. He looked good. He looked happy.
Great.
He was having a good time out there, barring the loss, obviously. It was fantastic to see him. How did you see the game, Jongy? What was your... did you actually make it through, or did you go to bed nice and early to make sure you were sharp for your Sunday semi-final?
Actually, I made it through, but then I was in shock, so I couldn't go to sleep after. But yeah, just on Toby, what about his first quarter, Harry? I think he had about 12 touches in the first quarter or something.
He looked tired after that.
Yeah. I would have been like, my job's done now. 12's enough.
Sub me out.
Yeah, mate, you summed it up pretty well. Sort of, I think, we Freo played as bad as they possibly could have. And then when they had those sort of 3 goals in a row, you could sort of feel like the momentum was sort of shifting a fair bit. Their midfield really got on top. It was a crazy game. I thought the fans were going to turn on them like soon enough when we were about 40 points up. But yeah, kudos to them, I guess.
Especially after that young fella hit the post at the quarter time siren.
Yes,
I was like, they're going to charge the field. These Dockers, it's the biggest home and away. It's the biggest game in terms of supporter size that the Dockers have ever had at Optus Stadium. I think ever actually in Perth.
Yeah, it is.
Biggest home game. And they turn out that garbage to start. I thought we were going to see a full melee on the field between the 60,000 Freo supporters and their 22 players, but not to be. Not to be. They stuck in there. Danny, what did you think, mate? You're probably the actual fan of the three of us.
Well, I was surprised. I was up and about. I thought, okay, cool, we got this. And I just kept thinking about phrases you guys said about 2016 away final. Silence is golden. We definitely brought the silence. And even when Freo got they got 2 goals in the second quarter, and I thought, if we get one more here, that's going to break them. This is actually good. Give them a little bit of hope, snuff it out. And then they got their third, and it was like, okay, this is annoying. But because we're all scarred from the grand final. Like at any point we can lose a match from any position. So we just, it always was a niggling thought in the back. And then, we were pathetic in that second half. It was just so depressingly predictable.
Danny, why aren't you a drooling, miserable mess? You were so sad after the grand final. I mean, I know this is not the same, but why are you actually... For everyone here, Danny's actually kind of sprightly this morning, which is very surprising after a Bulldogs loss. Usually comes in here swinging the sort of, the pessimistic axe, if you will, at me. And today he's actually in a pretty good mood. It's not just Jongy being on the podcast, obviously.
Oh, it's a part of it. It's a big fact. Whenever I just, there's something about the tone, the timbre of Jongy's voice just makes me happy. However, no, do you know what it is? I have been accused of this a fair bit over the last couple of days. Going, why aren't you, ringing Lifeline or whatever? And quite simple fact, compared to last year, we're not in lockdown. I'm going to work. I'm seeing friends, and I've got a bit more balance in my life. Also, we'll talk about this as well. The women had a brilliant win. And I've been looking at the women's fixture. I think we're really primed for a deep finals run this year. So I'm quite excited about that. What also helped is immediately after the losing that, I was able to flick over to KO and I watched my other great love of a different sport, but Celtic thumped Rangers by 4-0. And also I've had a good week with some sweet acting gigs coming through. So I'm becoming a balanced human. I know it's wrong. I know this violates my role within the podcast as the rabid, one-dimensional, one-eyed person. So we'll just focus on... I'm just happy about the women. There we go. Let's give that as the answer.
Well, it's a double-edged sword, that, Danny, because they've staggered the seasons nicely to provide a bit of relief post a poor finish to the men's season with the women on at the moment. But if the women start really poorly, it's just more and more desperation.
Well, the good news is the women play Freo on Friday at 5:00 on a Friday, which is actually perfect. I'll pick up the kids from school. I live closer to Princess Park than anywhere else, so we're just going to get on the bus, go there, and I will watch revenge. And even though the women's side had nothing to do with the elimination final, I will be acting as if it was all their fault.
Yeah. Makes for a good bit of sense, that to me.
Did you guys watch the women's game, by the way, the Port Adelaide one?
No.
It was it's actually one of the best games of AFLW I've ever seen. Not from an on-field perspective, because it was so staggered with the broken leg that happened in the second quarter, but the Alberton crowd. Port Adelaide, famously the most feral fans in the SANFL, and indeed would be up there for the AFL. Now, my issue with AFLW has been the fans are a bit too polite. They were not. They were as parochial and vicious as you could absolutely hope for. They were giving it to our girls so badly. The umpires were lucky to get out of there alive. It was glorious to watch some true mongrel from the fans, and I cannot wait to go to Alberton next year, and I'm going to probably get into a punch-on.
I was lucky enough to watch the girls yesterday, Danny, and that sort of slight mongrel spirit was coming out in the grand final. I think people forget that, the sort of calm community feel that the AFLW or the VAFA-W usually has. Jongy, mongrel crowds and fans wouldn't be something that's common in your league by chance, would it?
Forgive him, Jongy. He's never heard of the North Heidelberg Bulldogs.
That was a sarcastic question.
Oh, was it? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I know all about the North Side, mate.
They're pretty rogue and unhinged crowd most of the time. I think sometimes the Montmorency turn on me as well at times, but there's been a bit of sledging here and there, it's pretty bad.
Now, forgive me, Jongy, because I haven't been to Montmorency's ground, I don't believe. But at my local club at Nord, we used to have this sort of originally it was just like a sleeper wall hill that sort of perched up over the ground. And on the top of that perch sat the most derogatory and drunk gentleman in the Southern Hemisphere every single Saturday. And the essential role that they found, and this was a role that was handed through the generations, they sort of had the senior citizens standing up there bellowing just abuse either at the umpire, the opposition, and if we lost our own players. And then they'd have like the next tier of people would stand just below them who'd be like 10 years younger and sort of eager to take over the mantle as the abusive drunk on the hill. Is there a natural perch for the most parochial fans of Montmorency?
That actually is precisely that. It's sort of the ground sort of sits like a sort of a bit of a stadium, with sort of just like a big hill coming in, and obviously people on the cans and stuff, and mate, some of the things that are yelled out even have me question. I'm like, oh, I don't think you can say that, even if it's against the opposition.
The thing that always gets me about those blokes, Jongy, is that they think about what they're going to say and they wait for a lapse. They're kind of like Dennis Cometti. Like the famous Dennis Cometti stories is that he used to have all of these one-liners written down for every game and for every team. And then once he said it, he'd cross it out. He'd never say it again. So, for instance, just to shamelessly plug my goal in the last quarter of the 2016 Granny, the stadium hold its breath sort of thing, that was something that he wanted to use in the western suburbs erupts, right? Then he crossed it out. I feel like these blokes are very Dennis Cometti-esque because they stand up there and they go, I'm going to abuse number 34 from the opposition at some stage today, and this is what I'm going to say. And I'm just going to wait until the crowd dies down. So to your point, the fact that they say things that are like really inappropriate, it means they've thought about it for long periods of time and they still say it at the top of their lungs.
I like the comparison with Dennis Cometti as well. And
can you imagine him standing up on the hill? Just...
Actually, what I want to see is Dennis Cometti going full R-rated.
Yeah, he's retired now. We get him up on the hill and we do get him to do his sort of R-rated commentary of AFL games. That's awesome.
Yeah, that cork wouldn't be in the ocean. It'd be in a different orifice. And do they with like so? How actually, that's not an angle I want to go for. I've played at Montmorency Magpies not only as a junior but as a comedian. And to give an idea of how, I don't know if this bloke, they had a water boy there that they all loved, so they all got around him. And at the start of the night, they approached the comics and they said, "Do you mind if our water boy gets up and tells his joke? He's got a joke that he always tells," and the crowd love it. And it'll take 30 seconds. And we're like, yeah, fine, that's all good before the show. And his joke was indeed just dropping his dacks and showing his bits. But it did get a standing ovation.
I love how you said that this is his joke. He does it all the time.
That's what they told us.
Oh, the joys.
Is he still around, Jongy? That was about 20 years ago.
I don't think. I reckon I would have remembered a water boy that drops his dacks. Doesn't sound like Montmorency at all, though.
Yeah, I agree. Not in terms of that specific story, John, but what do you reckon's been the biggest thing that stood out to you as being really different? I mean, the obvious ones are the ground and the competition and the sort of level of chivalry, I suppose, that is expected of people at the local level. What's the thing that stood out to you most, whether it's on the field or off the field, since moving back? This year, first season?
First season, yep.
Yeah.
I guess... I don't know. Besides the sort of, as you said, the normal stuff, the grounds, etc. I reckon it's honestly how much people love playing footy. Like it's actually quite refreshing. These blokes obviously not on the same money, but they're going to every training. They do recoveries on Sundays, and just how passionate they are about it. Which as we both know, once when you're in the system, you can get caught up in all the fame and everything that comes with footy but it's just like I don't know, it's always nice to see like people how much they properly enjoy playing and wanting to play for their local team. I've only been there for a year and whatnot, but it's really nice to see how much it still means to people at local league level.
And what's you hear jokes about people having you crack a tinny at 3/4 time, and I know that in that Northern League there is fierce rivalries. What is the post-match reconciliation? I guess do you all go and have have a Pepsi in the rooms afterwards and chat to the opposition, or is it? Do you keep it all separate due to COVID at the moment?
No, it's all beers straight after the game into sort of the function room. Opposition players will be there, and it's really nice. Like you just win, loss, draw, just crack open a beer after the game. Never did that at AFL level.
Do you chat to the opposition? These people have spent 2 hours punching you in the head. How easy is it for both of you? Because I never got to that level. How easy is it for you to forgive and forget that someone's just hurt you for 2 hours, and then you have a pleasant chat about the weather afterwards?
I guess for me, I'm like personally, I don't mind it. Like once the siren goes, I'm happy to do whatever on the field, and then once the siren goes, it's like that's it. The game's done. Like I can sort of just switch off and not worry, and more than happy to have a beer after with whoever was bashing me up.
No, I don't feel the same.
Yeah, I thought so.
It depends, right? Like if you've got a defender unused, Misley, and wants to bump, and that's fine. But if there's a bloke out there who spent 3/4 punching you in the back, then there's not a lot of love lost between me and those people. But to your question, Daniel, I actually, when you started describing, like obviously that doesn't happen at AFL level, but Jongy, it actually would be probably really good for everyone if we could have, maybe they probably wouldn't let us have a beer post game altogether, but if you could have a sparkling water or for Mitch Wallace, a cordial or a cup of custard or whatever he likes to drink. If we could have one of them with the opposition team, I feel like AFL players as a whole would be far more likely to get along. And, if we ever wanted to, do something like negotiate a CBA, maybe we'd actually find some common ground and everyone would be able to sort of, solidify together. What do you reckon? Do you reckon we could actually facilitate that? I don't reckon I've ever seen any opposition players ever post-game.
I reckon they should have something like that. Scrap the ice bars; they're a myth now. I can't imagine many clubs are doing them these days. Anyway,
they are, Joggy. Don't worry. It's just for the mental anguish that it causes.
Yeah, true. Not a bad call though. I reckon. I can't imagine Bevo or someone like that would be too keen on it though.
What's the issue? What would be the issue? The fact that you then create friendships and you're not going to tackle as hard, or is it the fact that you'd want to be? Surely this is a great opportunity for Carlton Zero. If you don't want to have you don't want an alcoholic beverage, but a cold one that is not going to affect you at all. Surely that should be it. The Carlton Zero post match on the field. Someone just comes out with a slab of zeros. You all have one, and you have to chat to your direct opponent whilst you drink it.
I don't mind it. I mean, I think, Danny, this is a massive trade secret. Footy is just a game.
What? Shut up. Get off my podcast. This is the last episode.
The coaches wouldn't have you know that because, they want the players going out there with the thought that they're running into literal war. But, it's just a game. I think, for me, I would never have an issue. I actually probably would go harder if I was friends with my opponent, if I'm being totally honest. Because it'd be fun to be able to go after the game and have a Carlton Zero and just be like, geez, man, I absolutely put you on your ass in that second quarter. What happened? That's the best. But if I'm just like knocking some bloke over and then never seeing him again, it's not quite as fun. So I think we should bring this in, Danny. Have a Gatorade, have a water. Just go and talk to each other. You're just people.
I guarantee you, a Carlton Zero doused over the Gatorade, the Powerade shower.
Yeah.
You guys have told me how much that stings, but surely a Carlton Zero is not as bad. It's a bit more natural ingredients.
Well, the Gatorade hits first, and that stings, and then the milk hits second. The protein milk that they give you to drink after a game. And then it's disgusting, but at least it soothes the skin.
So what boys, let's go a bit of analysis onto what'll happen in the men's off season here. I've seen read some pieces about, how we've got the most talented list the club has probably ever had, yet we're so defensively,
Hang on a minute.
Suspect.
Number 46 and number 17 no longer play for the footy club. So how can they be the most talented? Oh, God.
You're right. Josh Bruce did have an off year, and I don't think anyone's taken 46 yet. Jongy, do you keep an eye?
I can't imagine. Taken's a strong word. I think forced upon is more we are.
But someone's more likely to take 100 than they are to take 46.
It's a good way to just make sure your number's retired, Jongy.
Well,
exactly.
If you peer over Jongy's presumably his right shoulder, that would be his life membership there, Danny. And I think with it, they retired the number 46.
But still,
so what was your question?
So the question is, what would you, if you were you were now director of football, both of you, for for the next few months, what changes or slight adaptations would you make to the men's side to make
Pre-season starts end of Feb?
Beers after the game, Carlton 0 straight away.
Yeah. Jongy, what do you think, mate? I probably talk on this podcast too much about what's happening in the team.
It'll be interesting. But yeah, you're right. I think it's a strange one to put your finger on. Sort of the list didn't really change from last year, and to sort of have the sort of season we had was I'm sure it was disappointing for all the fans. I think sort of going forward, it looks like we're getting Lin Jong, which will help the back line out a fair bit.
You played with Liam, didn't you, Jongy?
Yeah, I did for a couple of years before he went to Carlton.
Before he became a stalwart backman.
Yeah,
back when he was
incredible. He was as a forward at the Dogs. He was struggled a fair bit. Probably would have.
Did you play in that grand final, Jongy, in the VFL in like 2014, 15?
14.
So I remember Liam kicked 4 or 5 in that game. And I remember him so vividly getting asked after the game by a reporter going, so, does this give you great confidence to bring this into the AFL level? And he's like, yeah, I think so. And then he didn't play. I don't think he played next year. And then he went back the year after that. So I don't know if it helped that much. But he was a fantastic player for a few years with Carlton. He did a bang up job.
Yeah, he did brilliantly. Even for us, I mean, look, it's very well documented. He is the greatest red-headed Indigenous player of all time.
He was. It was amazing. Like he was, I think, very borderline going to get delisted at Carlton, and they just moved him to the back line. And he's just a superstar down there. So hopefully he solidifies that a bit, our back line a bit more next year.
Fascinating move, isn't it? Coming back to the club that you probably didn't have a great time at, and was challenged at different stages, and potentially didn't have the fondest memories of, and to come back sort of full circle, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And everyone's talking about, the Rory Lobb deal that seems to be locked in. A lot of people are saying we don't need him. Like Cameron Ling said on Channel 7 that he'd be pulling out of that deal because it's just so unnecessary to the list. Now, a phrase that I say a lot, I hope I've said it a lot on this podcast, I know enough about football to know I know nothing about football. Surely bringing in a player like that isn't that dumb an idea?
Lynn?
Yeah, it's an interesting one to sort of think about where he fits with, all our tours. We've got Nordy, Sam Darcy, Jamara, Brucey, who, obviously was coming off a knee, so it was always going to be really hard to get back into the team and stuff to sort of see where he fits. But that being said, we do need a backup ruck. We need to help Chile out. So how that looks, I'm not sure whether you move Nordy down back to be all-Australian centre-half back. But, yeah, I mean, he's a pretty bloody good player. So if they wanted to come to your club, you can't really deny that.
And we do, anyone who's, even if this is the first episode you've ever listened to of Danny Boyd, things we've learned about Tom Boyd is, he does hold a grudge if you tag him too hard. And has Rory Lobb ever tagged you? Oh, yeah, the 2016 prelim.
He didn't tag me.
Well,
He,
you
he
defended
came
you.
in when I was tired and used the extra 7 centimeters and about of height and 12 centimeters of arm length to make my day slightly more miserable than it was already going. I actually played with Rory at the Giants in 2014. He was that was his first season, so he got drafted as a 21-year-old out of the Waffle, I think, presumably. I think, I'm not sure. I think it's an interesting one. I get the sentiment that we need a backup ruck. I think that's an important one. And I think it really comes down to, are we stopgapping the next couple of years or are we looking to the future? And maybe the Liam Jones thing is really about giving Sam some more time to develop, get stronger, and potentially he's our backman that we look forward to the future.
Yeah.
I don't think you can ever move Naughty back because we just can't lose the production. Like he's just so productive as a forward and as good as he is as a backman. I mean, Jong and I remember, I'm sure, very vividly after him basically not running at all for the first 3 months of preseasons, coming out there and absolutely dominating a match sim. So, look, Naughty will be amazing wherever you put him on the ground. It's just a case of if you can replace him as a forward. And I think, Brucey, to your point, Johnny, not only did he have a knee injury, he had a knee injury in the last round of last year, which is a terrible time to have it because you lose your preseason, you lose your sort of in-season fitness. And I would say that they would be quietly wrapped that he got through the year, and they'd be looking forward to him being really, really fit. So maybe we can find some more production out of him. Jamara takes the next step. But then I just suppose, like, where does Rory fit into that whole equation? Because is Sam our backup ruck? Does he play back and then come in and sort of pinch hit for 20% of the game with the idea that Timmy plays, obviously 80, 85% ruck time? I don't know. I just think it's an interesting one where Rory's probably found himself, at least from what I've seen over the last couple of years, as more of a forward than a dominant ruckman. And does that destabilise, potentially Jamara's development or Sam's development if they want to play him forward and so on and so forth. So having too many tools is never a bad thing, but it can hamper, your sort of, prestigious talents that you've got within the building.
It does make sense. I mean, famous. We talk about how coaches, especially ones of a certain height, don't really respect the tall guys enough on this pod. Actually, something I can't believe we've not talked about yet. How much was Libba not being there a factor? Because he's the sort of player that if he wasn't the son of a legend and he wasn't already at the club, I can't see Bevo drafting him. He's not the sort of player that he's not a nice boy, which is what Bevo seems to like. He's our mongrel. He'll go in there and fly the flag. He'll he does amazing things. We need more players like him. How much would we have won by if he was playing?
I feel like after the first quarter, it was we were all good, but obviously, a huge out after what we saw, especially sort of around the centre bounce where he does his best work. Would he have been the difference? He probably says so, but it's a tough one. Like, you don't want to take away from Freo too much, but at the same time, it would have been really handy. Obviously, our strength is having those 6 mids just rolling through there, who are all stars. But I think obviously he's a big point of difference to those other midfielders. So would we have won? I don't know. Yes,
I actually don't think. Bevo values nice boys over everything. I think Bevo values production, and I think Libba's production over the last couple of years has been just phenomenal. And to Jongy's point, I think the mistake you can make when you look at the Dogs midfielders, you say everyone's just locked into the same basket. We've got 6 top tier midfielders. But, Bailey's proposition as a player is vastly different to Bonds, who can kind of do a bit of everything, but maybe doesn't have the pace that Bailey does. Treloar's sort of playing that pinch hitting inside half forward, which again is vastly different to, say, Dunks, who's all about, grunt and inside capability. But then Dunks doesn't have the ability to flick a handball like Libba does. And the other thing, Jongy, which I'll ask you about, is one of the greatest things that Libba has, as opposed to just his on-field production as a footballer in the stats column, is just he's so destabilising to other teams. Because if Libba starts annoying you, what are you going to say to him? Like I don't know if you remember Jongy in that grand final in 2016, or even in the prelims, or whenever Libba's at his best. Like he gets his back up and he starts targeting the opposition's number one midfielder, generally speaking, and they turn around to have a go at him, and they just see the crazy eyes, and they're like, especially when he had that big like perm job that he had throughout when he's let his hair grow out of it. What do you reckon in terms of that side of things, Johnny? I mean, you've played a lot of probably midfield with Libba, more than I've played midfield, I'd say. But did you enjoy that part of his game, being on the field with him?
I think everyone on the team does, especially. He like that point difference. Obviously, I think with the Bulldogs in general, they're pretty like you're not going to have Jack McRae running around, getting into blokes and things like that. So he does provide that sort of difference, and it's like, you do look at him, he's unfazable, and it's like he would have heard everything under the sun coming his way. So there's not too many more things you can say about how crazy he is, but he does for a team that sort of I guess not really that side of them. They don't have that side where they're, sort of bashing and crashing and getting under the opposition's skin. He does provide that.
Is there any players that we could get who could provide that as well? Because Libba's, he's 30 now. I'm worried that when he retires in about 6 years, we won't have another player who can get under their skin.
Westy.
Oh, is Westy that? Is he? That's fantastic.
Liv is a unique character, but Westy's just as combative. So maybe he'll be our little and look, he also, like, from what I've seen of him, particularly as he started playing more senior footy, he's got the inside grunt, he's got the just desperation to get the footy. He's got quite a good set of particularly his hands are quite good. Now Libba, again, unique player, but maybe we can find sort of 80% of his interesting mindset on life out of Westy just to upset the opposition.
And either of you boys know what is, now that the players are on their summer holidays, what are the COVID regulations? I mean, I don't know if we actually said this on air, Boydie, but I think we can mention it now. Like the players pretty much had a blanket ban from public appearances. Like they were advised not to go to pubs and cafes and stuff just for COVID safety. Are they allowed now? And I'm sure you can tell where this is going. When can we get any current players on the pod yet?
Well, I think it didn't. Isn't it? I don't know. The dumbest thing I've ever seen is that all of these pundits complaining about the Essendon boys going over to Spain or Europe somewhere when they have a wedding over there, and you're like, I think, isn't that why they're all going? I thought it was. I'm pretty sure it's a teammate's wedding. So anyway, everyone's complaining. Oh, they planned an off-season trip. I was like, mate, they lost. Like, what do you want them to do? Sit there and just stare at the screen and just rewatch every game they lost for the year for the next 4 months? Mate, but commentators of the game, oh God, they do my head in. Just let the boys go off, rest up, because if they don't rest up and they play terrible next year, you're going to criticise them for that anyway. So how about we let them go overseas? They haven't been away for a couple of years. They've got some time off. It's a big pre-season. They'll all be back. They'll all be judged just as harshly next year. Let them have their off-season.
So, but answer the question: can we get anyone on the pod? Can we get any?
I think most of the boys are looking to have extended hiatuses overseas, but I'll work some magic.
All right.
Get some people zooming in from around the country, perhaps.
Or we just get Jongy on every week.
Well, yeah, I've seen Jongy's rates. Why don't we can afford him?
So, Jongy, do you have anything to plug? Are you, has anyone hitting you up to write a book, or is who are you working for? What you got to? Day job?
No book writing for me. I'm definitely not that switched on or smart enough. I'm working.
Doesn't stop a lot of people, mate. Yeah. Come on.
I'm working for Beyond Blue now, though. So it's been it's been so good, mate. I love not playing footy more than I ever loved playing footy. I think it's safe to say, if that makes sense. So I just, mate, I love the work-life balance. I love that I can close my laptop and leave work at work, and that's it, and then just go off and do my own thing and have a midweek beer and It's been really good, mate.
Sweet. Well, I hope everyone gets down to Kramer Street Oval this Sunday. And if you didn't, just go Google the results and see how well Jongy played. Boydie's book, Nowhere to Hide, is it's out everywhere, isn't it? You can get it at Kmart, Big W, Angus and Robertson's.
Booktopia. I will, throw it at people in the street as I walk past them if I have to.
Are you on Audible yet, Boydie?
Oh, Jongy, just pick up a book and read it, would
Mate,
you?
I'm all about Audible.
So am I. I haven't gone to that bit yet. I think it's coming up. I don't know.
Jongy, you do have such a great voice. You should do audiobooks. I would love to hear Boydie's book read by Jongy. It's great. You should do voiceover stuff. Let's get you an agent. All right, here we are.
I might get into that.
To plug something of mine, for you highfalutin types, I'm doing a Shakespeare play in October at Gasworks. Check out my socials for all the details of that and a few other.
Gasworks Park.
Yeah, sure. I think so. Yep.
In Albert Park.
Yeah, that one. You gonna come watch?
Walk down with my dog and watch the show.
Yeah, sweet. Bring the dog in. Buy it a ticket. That's fine.
I will.
Actually, there is a cat in the play, so Nala might go nuts. But
yes, not a massive fan of cats. My dog.
That'll work. Well, don't forget, the men's season's over, but the women are absolutely up and about. And also a special shout out to one of our listeners who just goes with the nickname Raw Toast, but came up with the best nickname because we'll talk about this next week. I think we're getting Nell Morris Dalton on. We're going to Gabby Newton is now called, after we lost Bonnie Too Good, we're calling her Gabby Even Better. Lock that in. All right, good night. Thanks, Joggy. Thanks, Boydie.
Thanks, having me.
Today's episode was proudly brought to you by 8-Star Energy, creating energy for the future and power you can count on.
Follow them on Facebook, 8-Star Energy.
I gave my childhood to that roar of the red, white and blue sea, and the knowledge that you had to love the Bulldog boys and me. 20 years on, I feel that longing hanging in September air. But the reason I go every week is to pretend you're still there. And they will find the glory one day, and I will throw it at your feet. It's a long, long road they're running for you, the dogs of Footscray streets. Long, long road they're running for you, the dogs of Footscray streets.